Is it even Fridays Live if you don't do the little dance with the intro music? Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Fridays Live. My name's Ellie. I'm Senior Community Executive at Findmypast, and I have a packed schedule for you today. We're going to look at some new records. We're going to do a question of the week, which I will tell you about in just a moment. We're going to have a little look back at our Heritage Open Days event at the weekend, and also stick around because we're going to be sharing a little bit about what it was like to meet some of the cast of Michael Caine's new film, The Great Escaper. So yeah, packed agenda today. Please say hi in the comments. Tell me where you're joining from today. Tell me what the weather's like with you. And also tell me, what's your week been like? What have you been finding? What have you been discovering? All of that jazz. I want to hear it all today. So yeah, lovely to be here. It feels like I've been an age since I've done this. But yeah, it's nice to be back. We've got Liam in the comments, so please say hi to Liam as well. Yeah, let me just pop question of the week on the screen while I remember, actually. So yeah, question of the week is, what's your best ever newspaper discovery to date, and what was your reaction to it? So I want to hear what you found, and I also want to hear your reaction. Did it make you laugh? Did it make you cry? Was it the thing that unlocked a decades-long brick wall? Was it somebody that you knew really well that you found in the newspapers, for example? This is the sort of thing I want to hear from you today. Okay, right, let's welcome a couple of you in the comments, shall we? So we have Andrea joining. Hi, Andrea. We've got Roz joining from sunny Massachusetts. I swear it's always sunny in Massachusetts. It shouldn't be. Is it always sunny in Philadelphia? Is that a film? A song? I don't know. I'm showing my age here, maybe. I feel like it's always sunny in Massachusetts. I've got Matthew joining us. Hello. Rosie says it's raining in Shropshire. Yeah, do you know, it's quite grey here in Edinburgh, but you know what? I got back to Scotland after 2.5 weeks away on Wednesday, and I stepped out of the train station at Waverley. I started walking home, and do you know what? I do love autumn in Scotland, particularly autumn in Edinburgh. There's just something about the air; it feels crisper, and because I'm Welsh, you know, I'm sort of like I love the rain anyway. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely missing summer, but hey ho. Yes, we've got Liam with us. He is still working, so he says apologies if he misses anything. We're sort of like a half team today, Liam, aren't we? There's a lot, because I don't know if any of you know, but Liam does some work in my team now. So he's in the customer support team still, but he does 1 day of the week in my team, in the brand team, which is really, really good for him. It's really good for us as well. But yeah, there's a lot of our team, the brand team, who are off today, either on holiday or sick, etc. So thank you so much, Liam, for doing this today. We've got Karen. Hi, Karen. Very dark Enfield. Been odd. Been a nice day until now. Yeah, it's weird how that sort of creeps up on you, isn't it? Kim joining us from a breezy West Yorkshire. Daphne joining us from Somerset. Thank you so much for noticing. I've been trying new things with my hair. It is actually naturally curly, but I won't talk about that because none of you joined to hear about me talk about my hair. No matter how much I want to talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it. We've got Jean joining us from a damp and miserable Preston. Hello. Hiya, Ellen. You missed us last week. Definitely fall. Yes, it's got that feeling in the air, hasn't it? No matter where you are in the Northern Hemisphere right now, it's starting to feel like autumn. So many of you here. This is lovely. Lots of compliments on the head. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to take them all. Thank you very much. No, we're not doing hair tutorials. This is not the place for hair tutorials. Stop enabling me. Robert joining us from sunny Dorset. Hello. I've been doing some research into Dorset just this morning for a work-related project, not my own tree, but that's been quite good fun. Janet joining us from damp and grey North Wales. I don't know why my brain mixed those up. Grey and damp, you said, but my brain mixes up. Gina in hazy Lincolnshire. Hello. Yes, this is what this is the question that's on everybody's lips. What does your hair look like today, Liam? Sue, hello, lovely to see you from a showery Guildford. Also been looking at Guildford actually. This bit of Devon research that I've been doing has also been taking me into Guildford, into Eastbourne, and then up into the Midlands. So it's quite interesting actually. I'm enjoying it. I'm tracing a family of bakers who moved around. Yeah, really exciting. Linda says there is a site problem. I have just crashed the newspapers. Oh dear. Liam, can you take a look for me, please? Because we do not want anybody having trouble with newspapers, especially when I'm going to tell you all about new newspapers. You know, I want you guys to go and search, etc. Gordon says in Alberta, you had frost overnight. Goodness gracious me. My mum actually spent the summer in Canada and she loved it. She was hiking and trekking and seeing the cities, and yeah, she loved it. Okay. I think I've caught up with everybody. We've got Wendy joining us from Dallas. Hello. And also we've got Jackie from Colchester. Lovely. Okay, right. I think I've said hi to everybody. Hello. Just to reiterate, in case you missed it, what we're going to do today is we're going to do new records. We are going to do question of the week, which is, and I'm going to pop that on screen again because I want to get these in. What is your best ever newspaper discovery to date, and what was your reaction? Start getting those in. If you can put the sort of QOTW at the beginning, that's really, really helpful for me. If you can. Then we're going to have a look at the Heritage Open Days event that we had in last weekend. And then I'm also going to touch on what it was like for me to meet some of the cast of The Great Escaper, which is Michael Caine's new film, which had its premiere in London on Wednesday. We were invited to go as because we're helping to promote the film, but it was just too tight to turn around, so we didn't go in the end. But I was interested. I was so tired after this weekend. I just wanted to go home, so I just went home instead. Anyway, shall we do some new records? Keep those questions of the week coming in. Thank you very much, Karen. Let's have a play with these. Let me just take the question of the week banner off. There we go. Okay, so who is ready to head into Gloucestershire? There are over 100,000 new parish records to explore this week. We have just over 10,000 baptisms, Gloucestershire baptisms from 1518 to 1976. They're transcript only, and you should be able to find a full name, birth year, baptism date, place, county, and both parents' first names where they exist. There's also an additional notes column on many of these, so it can sometimes denote if somebody was born illegitimately, for example. The biggest chunk we have are 82,000 new marriages, and these span 1518 to 1982. Typically, you'll find both parties' names, their years of birth, the date of their marriage, the parish, and some even give the groom's occupation and sometimes witnesses as well. Then there's also 9,499 burials from 1518 to 1985. You may find a full name, burial, full name, birth date, marital status, occupation, sometimes parents' names, and then obviously you get the burial date as well. Again, sometimes there are notes with these that just don't ignore them because they'll be really handy for you. Sometimes they can unlock brilliant things. Before we do newspapers, because we do have over 280,000 new pages this week, I do want to have a play with the Gloucestershire records because, as any of you here will know who's heard me speak about my mum's side of the family, my overthrows, they are from Gloucestershire, specifically actually the Gloucester area. And while there are no overthrows in here yet, I did try and explore with another surname from my mum's side of my family tree, and that is the Cambridge family. So I decided to search for the Gloucestershire baptisms for that surname, Cambridge, with a rough year of 1880. And I decided there were 14 results, but I decided to go with one family. So I decided to follow the children of Alfred and Harriet. And listed here, they are William Gilbert, Ernest, Lily, and Helen. Even with that one simple search, I can start to build a family tree with it. Now, this is what William Gilbert's baptism record looks like. So he was baptised on the 7th of January 1877 at Kingswood Holy Trinity in Bristol. Now, I imagine he may have been born sometime between Christmas and New Year, or very early in that New Year, for example. And the next thing I want to do, because I've already got quite a few names building up this tree, I want to see if I can find them in the 1881 and 1891 censuses. And I can. So this is 1881. They're at 9 Hannam Lane in Oldland, and it is quite a big family. So Alfred is a bootmaker. And what I found particularly interesting about this is that Harriet, being mother to all of these children, she's still working as a tailoress. So I thought that was pretty cool. You know, her youngest there is 4 months old and she's still working, which I think is pretty impressive. This is the 1891 census, so a decade later, they're at the same address, and this tells me that a lot of the children were following in their father's footsteps. So Alice is a boot machinist, Sarah Ann, Gilbert, William, and Ernest. Ernest is just 13. They're all bootmakers. I also find it fascinating to me that they have so many children, like so many children. This is a very large working family, and a lot of them are working from a young age. Also fascinating to me, one of their children is called Albert Victor, and I wondered whether he was named after Victoria and Albert's son. So we fast forward again to 1901, and they're at Court Road. And when I actually look at the other families on the page, which of course naturally I cropped this out so you can't see because I'm an idiot, a lot of the other families are also shoemakers or boot machinists or corset makers or clickers. So the people in this community are all working in a similar industry, and I wonder whether they're working for the same people, for example, for the same manufacturers. And I started to wonder, like, I've already found quite a lot here. I wonder how much further I can go. How much else can I find out about this one single family? And bearing in mind, this was me spending, I think I spent 30 minutes on all of this morning. So I thought I was doing quite well, but there's more to go. So this is 1911, and the family are at Laurel Street. And the household has shrunk a little in 10 years. Obviously, many of the children must have married and started households of their own. The single 40-year-old Sarah Ann still lives at home. There's also Lily. She's married. She's now Lily Bennett, or Barrett. I think it's Barrett. And I think that's her infant daughter with her. She's listed as a niece, but I actually think that's incorrect. But what I always love about the 1911 census is that it's dubbed the fertility census. So it tells me that Alfred and Harriet have been married for 43 years. They have had 12 children, 4 of whom have died. 12 children is a lot. And even for 8 to still be alive, that's a lot of kids. It also tells me that Alfred and his bootmaking children all work at home. So they're not working in a factory, they're all working from home. And I started to wonder when I saw this, dare I hope that Alfred and Harriet are in the 1921 census? And they are. So they are at 7 Laurel Street. We find the 72-year-old still working, Alfred Cambridge. He's still a boot and a shoemaker. Harriet is 73. Their unmarried 51 daughter, Sarah Ann, is still a bootmaker. Alfred still works from home, and he's working for a boot and shoe manufacturer. So is Sarah Ann, but working for a different employer. And what intrigued me here is, why did Alfred only leave his mark on the 1921 census? Because he clearly filled out and signed 1911. And it says here, I've never seen this before, the mark of Alfred Cambridge with an X, and then witness Alex Cambridge. Who is Alex? And why did this happen? Was he just too busy to fill it out himself? Or, you know, by the age of 72, maybe he wasn't able to write. I mean, if you look at that X, you probably can't see it very well, but it's it looks quite laboured. I'm leaning towards he might have been struggling to write at this point. But yeah, who is Alex Cambridge? There's no Alex Cambridge in this household, and I've also not seen an Alex Cambridge on any of the census records. So this is where I thought it would be a good idea to start keeping a track of everything, because there were a lot of names, a lot of kids, I decided to create a family tree. I like to do this even if it's not my own tree. Whatever I'm researching, whether it's a bit of house history, whether it's some research that we've done for the National Trust, whether it's the bit of research I was doing this morning into the family of bakers, there's always a family tree for me, because it helps me contextualize everything. It helps me keep track, who's the daughter of who's the uncle of who, etc. So when I added these in, I realized that initially I only had 9 of the 12 children, so I was missing 3 of them. So this has helped me identify some of the gaps. And by going back into the Gloucestershire baptisms, I've absolutely lost my mouse, I found my answer. So Alex Cambridge, I've skipped ahead, sorry. Alex Cambridge was born in 1887, so he's the Alex Cambridge that was written on the 1921 census. And then I looked at civil births and I found 2 other children, Jonah and Lily Maria. And I'm not even kidding. Like you guys, I could have gone on and spent the entire day looking at this family. I found them utterly fascinating. Given the surname Cambridge, Alfred may be a distant relation of mine, but given he's based in Bristol and not in Gloucester, it's probably quite distant. So Sarah, the unmarried daughter, if we skip ahead to 1939, she was living with her brother and his wife. So William's occupation in 1939 was given as state disablement, and the same was given for his wife. The last thing I wanted to do was to see if I could find any mention of any of these family members in the newspaper. And I decided just to go with Alfred and stop there, because otherwise I would just run out of time. But yes, I found this funeral report for Alfred in 1929. He was 80 years old when he died, and he was reportedly one of Kingswood in Bristol's oldest bootmakers and worked for his employer for 70 years. I don't think that's bad for 30 minutes work, do you? I was quite impressed with myself. I was really only going with the things I could find easily. If there was anything that would have required quite a bit more in-depth research and cross-referencing and things like that, because I only allowed myself 30 minutes to do that, I would move on from the difficult bits. But yeah, there would be so much more to find. And I always say it's good practice. It may not be your family, but it's good practice. Okay, so brief look at the newspapers. We've added an impressive 218,000 new pages. There's updates to 11 titles, which I'll go onto in a moment. We've had 1 new title this week, and it's the East Essex Advertiser and Clacton News, which was reportedly at the time Clacton's first newspaper. So if you have any Clacton ancestors, you might want to check this one out. And this is the updated list. There are lots of New Year's for the Liverpool Daily Post in particular. There's one in 1878, there's one in the 20s, and then some of them are a little bit more recent. Okay, let's do question of the week, shall we? So question of the week is, what's your best ever newspaper discovery to date, and what was your reaction? Now, I'm gonna find my mouse. No. Oh yeah, I was going to show you this. This is mine. I was torn between this and the wedding report for my grandparents, which even describes what my grandmother's wedding dress was like, what the bridesmaids' dresses were like, the flowers that they had, a little bit about the gifts. But I actually went with this one instead. So I can't remember if I've shown you this before, but a little bit of context. So my maternal grandfather's father, so my great-grandfather, he was a chemist for Cadbury, as in Cadbury chocolate. And one day, this was a while ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. One day I was searching the newspapers and I wanted a bit more contextual information about what a chemist actually did for Cadbury. Like, why did they need chemists? And I was finding lots of detail, like they had to like test the milk, for example, to make sure it was good enough quality and there was nothing bad in it before it then went into production to make the Cadbury milk chocolate. And I was reading about this on a newspaper and I came across this photo, which was next to the report. And I looked at it and I thought I could see, I mean, this man is not looking at the camera, but I thought I could see my grandfather staring back at me. I thought he looked like my grandfather. So immediately I sent this photo to my mother and I said, do you think this looks like your dad, my grandfather? And naturally, like my mother always does, she takes an age to reply. If she's listening, she probably isn't actually. If sorry, Mum. So she did eventually reply, and she said that she showed it to my grandmother, and my grandmother said she thought it looked like my grandfather's brother. And that was enough for me that both, because my mum also thought it looked like her father. So that was enough for me that they both could see the resemblance and I could see the resemblance. So this, I believe, although there is no name attached to this photograph, I believe this is my great grandfather, Ralph Overthrow, working as a chemist for Cadbury. And it's dated, I want to say 1928, I think. I should have put the date on it. But yeah, that's my favourite one. And in terms of how it made me feel, this was somebody I never met. He died, I think, in 76. I've seen older photographs of him, but I've never seen a photo of him as a younger man. And it was immediately that I recognized that person. They look like somebody that I knew, his son, my grandfather. So yeah, that was quite special. Right, okay, let's read yours. Let me get rid of this. I'm going to scroll all the way back up to the top because there was one that came in earlier. This was from Midas Touch over on YouTube. Hello. My great grandfather was run over by a hackney cab in Stepney. Oh, and the cab driver was fine. What happened? Did he survive? Please tell me he survived. I really need to. Okay, I'm going to scroll back down because that one came in earlier when I first scheduled this. Karen, yes. Okay, last night at our Family History Society meeting, we were discovering migration and got onto the subject of wives from a distance. Found an article saying wife wanted by great French giant, published 22nd of August, 1873 in the Gateshead Observer. Spy code or a joke? What was that? That is so bizarre. It's interesting though, because I think Jen might have spoken about this before, but she has instances in her family tree of somebody responding to a sort of wife wanted advert, and it's sort of a cross the Atlantic wife wanted. So she left. I think this woman left England to then go and be a wife to a husband in somewhere in America, I think. She'll tell you more. But she's on very well-deserved annual leave today, so don't ask her today. Okay, Kim says, my mum and dad finding a dead man in his flat. It was in the People newspaper. Gosh, I don't know what to do if that happened to me. I'm a very sensitive soul, as I'm sure many of you are probably aware. Yes, I don't think I'd like it very much. Anya says, I've mentioned it before, my 2 times great-grandfather writing to the newspaper in Wigan in 1901, talking about his experience in Borneo and the local people and traditions while he was working within the mining industry there. That's just incredible. Like, I've not even been to Borneo, and yet your 2 times great-grandfather went and lived there and worked there just before 1901. But yeah, I think that's incredible. I'm always in awe of our ancestors who travelled in a time before travel was it was just not as easy, right? It involved steamships like for months at sea and trains and carriages and horseback and And now I can't even sit on a plane for 4 hours because I get fidgety feet. I would not have been a good traveller in the 19th century. It just wouldn't have happened. Oh, okay. Gina says, I think the most amazing discovery from the newspapers was finding the father of my sister-in-law who she hadn't met. She was told he had died when she was 3 years old, but in fact he died a lot later when she was a teenager. She missed the chance of knowing him. I even found photos and some living relatives for her. That's such a shame. It's just exactly what you said there, Gina, about she actually, not through no fault of her own, obviously, but she missed the chance of getting to know him because the story she was told was not quite true. So sad. But lovely that you did some research for her as well. Jackie says, I found a report of my grandparents' marriage in 1912, and it gave me the names of people that are in the formal photo of their wedding that has been passed down, plus the names of both of their employers, and the fact that my grandmother's parents held a wedding breakfast seated for 50 people. I love that. I love that so much. And especially that you've got that photograph. And did it not have any names on the back or anything like that? Did you not know who some people were? And then you found this and it told you who the other people were. I love it. I love it when a plan comes together like that. Hello, Andrew. Glad you could join us. Ellen says, a notice in a paper in 1903 that the body of a man hit by a train was finally identified. He was my great-great-grandfather, Henry C. Witter. His sons had to identify him. Oh, that's so sad. Sensitive soul, see. Andrew says, I found an article in 1902 about my 2 times great-grandfather called The Old Kennelman. He had recently died in the workhouse, which gave me information about his life working for the late Duke of Hamilton. So he worked for the Duke of Hamilton, but ended up dying in the workhouse. That's really sad. It's a shame, isn't it, when people fall on hard times like that? I do feel, I mean, people deserve dignity always, but in particular, people should have dignity in death. And yeah, just sad, isn't it? Can I have some happy stories as well, please? I would really like some happy stories, please. Sensitive soul. Rosie says, inquest report on my paternal great-grandfather's first wife, who he left for another woman. The first wife died of an overdose of aspirin, apparently accidental, but I do wonder. Conspiracy, I can't even say it. Conspiracy theorist at work there, Rosie. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because I doubt you'll ever know. Because, yeah. The inquest is the inquest, isn't it? Okay. Jean says, this was sad. Right, I just said I wanted happy ones. I'm joking. Okay, my father's generation were convinced that their aunt had died after an accident with a steam motor on the main road. After trailing the newspapers at Warrington Library, I found that it was another relative on my paternal side as a child who ran across the main road to go to his brother. I couldn't understand why it all fell in with Bella, but I'd been told that she was 17 when the accident happened. However, it seems my grandparents were covering up she died due to suicide. Oh. See, in that instance, you know how we say that sometimes we get frustrated with our ancestors and our relatives who might embellish stories slightly? I think, at least from my perspective, in this instance, I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing. You may disagree with me. I don't know. But yeah, very, very sad indeed. Yes, Karen says, going back to the tree from earlier, I always draw out a family tree. I can't understand relationships, otherwise I need to see it. Yeah, I am exactly the same. If anybody tells me, oh, and by the way, this person's great-grandfather's cousin's uncle's brother's husband, and I'm just like, what now? I need to see it. Also, really helps that we have a kinship calculator on Findmypast. So if I need to quickly go and see, okay, how is this person related to this person? I can just use the kinship calculator. Daphne says, Captain William Coldstream, a relative of mine, served as a surgeon at an Indian hospital. He was tragically murdered by an Indian orderly in 1935. Gosh. And serving as a surgeon at the time as well. Oh, goodness me. Okay, I had often wondered why my grandparents had had such a long courtship before finally marrying. In 1927, the mystery was finally solved when, searching through the newspaper records last year, I came across an article in the Surrey Advertiser which mentioned my great-grandfather had been gravely injured in a traffic accident on his way walking home one winter's evening from his employment. He was reported as having been carried home and in a coma. Oh, I can't see the rest of it, but that would surely explain it, right? Why they waited so long to get married. He was having to recover from this awful accident. Gosh. But I'm so pleased he recovered, though. So pleased. Gordon says, my great-uncle George Louis Marie Edouard, I'm never going to pronounce that, I'm sorry, obituary. It romanticised his arrival in England, said he lost a financial fortune and selected a place on the world map to move. In fact, he had deserted the French army after striking an officer. He set up an architectural company in Ilford and then brought lawsuits against the local board over property and became known as the Fighting Garçon. Sounds like quite a character. I think it's also a good lesson that things in newspapers are not always 100% accurate, because it's probably still true to this day with some newspapers. I'm not going to mention which ones. How can I say this in a balanced manner? Sometimes newspapers will slightly embellish the truth, and this, I'm talking historically mainly here now, but and use certain type of language to try and get people to read their newspapers. Especially such a romantic story like this, just getting out the world map and going, I'm gonna go there. I can almost picture it, even though it probably didn't happen, as you say, Gordon. Okay. Okay, Paul says, my best and funniest thing, thank you, something that's going to make me laugh, I found in the newspapers was myself. Not what I expected. I only put my name in for a laugh. It made me feel old. It was from 1991. I love that. I'm not going to lie, I keep putting my own name into the newspapers as well. Mainly because when I was at school, when we had like events on and things like that, sometimes they would mention like pupils' names and things. So I keep sort of throwing my name in as well. So you're not alone. Okay, Tara says, Ben Cambridge, 1847, Brimsfield, Gloucester, death, unknown father-in-law, son Stanley. Is this in relation to the Cambridges that I was looking at? Have you got Cambridges in your tree? Oh, Tara, are we related? Have I actually found a cousin? Okay, I need context. Please, can I have context, please, Tara? Because I've been waiting for this moment where I actually found like a distant cousin on Friday's Live. Like everybody else has had one, I have not had one, so I want this, please. Okay, not getting excited. Andrew says, I found a relative's funeral which lists mourners and that many accompanied the deceased 8 miles to the graveside at his wife's home parish. I love that. And it would have been by foot, probably, or by carriage. But still, 8 miles is quite a way. Okay. Rosie, the other thing was a photo of me in 1964. Now that does make me feel ancient. You are not ancient, Rosie. You are thriving. Okay. Liam says, mine isn't for my own tree, but I was doing one of my friend's trees for him and he has an unusual surname. So I went into the newspapers and found one of his ancestors listed as being lost, where the RMS Empress of Ireland sank, and it went into great detail about why she was going to Canada, what her brother did over there, and the fact that her brother in England was a footballer. Amazing find and good to hook my friend who wasn't previously interested in family history. I sometimes find you just need that one little find. I say little find, one exciting find to get somebody hooked. Come join us on the dark side. We have cookies. I don't know. Okay, Alan says, distant Witter cousins published dueling advertisements in the paper accusing each other of infidelity and abandonment. Oh dear. Jenny says, after reading my grandfather's obituary, I discovered a relative whose name I didn't recognize. After researching her, I realized it was a lady I had been introduced to when I was a small child. She was hanging her head out of a window, and my aunt said, "Oh, I think she's a relation on your mum's side of the family." Never knew who she was until last year, 60 years after the event. I love this. I love this. That it was just this woman who you knew you were sort of related to, but you didn't really know how. Yeah, I love that. Okay, have I got any more here? Just thinking of time. Who haven't I looked at yet? There's a couple here. Matthew, I don't think I've read this. Found lots of references to my Baverstock ancestors in Reading newspapers and London newspapers, mostly when they were arrested for things such as being drunk, assaulting each other, trespass, etc. They sound fun. My grandmother told me her grandparents, William and Mary Ann, were always down at the pub, drunk and fighting. Here I have the evidence in black and white. Yes. It's yeah, I also remember a story my grandmother told me. This is not to do with drinking. She told me that, so she's 80, what is she, 84, 80, 86? I can't remember how old she is, that's terrible. So she said in school she was very athletic, so she played hockey and things like that. And she also was quite good at athletics. And she was busy telling my mum and me and my sisters one day that she won second place in some athletics competition when she was in school. And my mum's like, you know, that's a lie. You've obviously just made that up, or you're misremembering. And my grandma's like, no, I definitely came second, honestly. So I'm like, okay, let's have a look in your local newspaper from when you were a kid. What did I find? She did not come second. She came first. I'm just like, I vindicated my grandmother's story there. I had to make my mother eat her words. Honestly, my grandmother's memory is so good. Okay, Karen says, a 1911 newspaper recording of my great aunt's divorce from her husband, who was a lay preacher, citing domestic abuse. She was a brave woman to challenge for her very difficult situation. Absolutely, good on her for speaking out. Gosh, there's so many here. You guys are feeding me today. This is excellent. Barbara says, my 2 times great-grandfather left his wife, went to Glasgow and married bigamously one of his customers. A chance report when I put his names into the newspaper search on Findmypast. Do you know, I love these ones where you just go, do you know what? I'm going to have a quick look in the newspapers, and then boom, you find it. Or maybe not boom, but maybe like 10 minutes later when you've tried a couple of different search combinations, but pretty much boom. Patricia said, my 3 times great uncle, I believe, lived and died in the same village. Found his death notice, died in 1814, 2 weeks after returning from the West Indies. I believe he dealt in sugar. He was 38 years old, found lots of information on family members, not to be found anywhere else. BMDs and census records would not have revealed these, some late 1700s and early 1800s. But this is exactly the thing. So you get back pre-civil registration and pre-census, and your records are much less standardized, and not as many survive because there's no sort of centralized record keeping, right? You know, everything else is just from the parish or various other places. So newspapers like this can be a real eye-opener, and they can just give you that detail that you might not be able to find somewhere else. So yeah, very good. Right, I am going to have to move on, otherwise I'm going to run out of time, I'm afraid. But keep, oh my goodness. Do you have Cambridges in your family tree, Tara? I found a cousin. I'm so excited. I'm gonna message you. Okay, right. I'm actually gonna move on because I do have some other things to talk through. So very briefly, the weekend just gone, it was our Heritage Open Day event. So the Findmypast team headed for Cheshire Last year we did our Heritage Open Day event at the Savoy in London. This one's at Quarrybank Mill, which is a National Trust place. It's one of the 10 places that we have been working with and doing research for. And you know what? It was so amazing to visit the mill and work and meet with the volunteers and the people and the staff there and the members of the local community, and of course to meet some of you. I just put a handful of photos on here. Some of them are mine and some of them are Jen's. So the first, we did it over 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday. The first day was ticketed, so we had around 100 guests. And Jen took us through some Quarrybank research. We had some surprises in store for some of the guests. One of them even found a cousin in the room. Can you guess? Now, anybody who was there on Saturday, right? I don't want you to spoil it. Can you guess? Okay, I'm going to give you some options. So somebody in the room, a guest, was related to a member of Findmypast. Was it A, me, B, Jen, C, Liam? Yeah, those are your options. Who was this guest related to? Okay. So I was also really delighted to be able to do a house history reveal for somebody who lives at one of the cottages in Style Village. And it turned out that the chap sitting next to this guest, he's the grandson of one of the previous occupants of his house. And I don't think either of them had realized this until I did my reveal. And one of them came to talk to me the next day and he said, I'm going to go round to this house and I'm going to be able to go in, and I haven't been in there for however many decades, and it's going to be really nice, and we're going to share what we know about the house and my memories and have that over tea. And I just thought that was so lovely. Okay. I don't know if you can really tell from this picture, top middle, but that's me speaking. Can you tell that I wave my hands a lot when I talk? And I was told by my colleagues at dinner on Saturday night that I look a little bit like some zealous preacher when I give presentations. So if any of you guys who were there on Saturday agree, I'm so sorry. I will let you guys decide. After a really good lunch, we did some more reveals, and then we split into 3 groups and we did an immersive tour of the mill. And can I just say, they're probably not listening, but Jennifer, David, Melanie, Keith, so many more of the staff and volunteers at Quarrybank, they are amazing. They are absolute fonts of knowledge, and yeah, just amazing to be able to work with them. And I hope we get to work with them again. And of course, I have to say, Karen, William, Andrea, anybody else that I've missed, it was so lovely to see you there on Saturday. Daphne, I'm so sorry you couldn't make it. I was really excited to see you because I know we had a really special moment at the Savoy last year, and whenever I think about it, I start crying, just like I cried last year. But yeah, I'm happy you got home safe, we'll put it that way. And then on Sunday, Andrew, it was so great to see and to meet you as well. Yeah, Sunday was the more open event, so anybody visiting the mill on that day could drop in and speak to us. We had the Findmypast team on hand with laptops, and we would sit down with people and help them with their family history brick walls or get them started. And I spoke to some wonderful people. We also had some talks on throughout the day. We did Jen did genealogy 101, and then I did a house history talk, and then Mary did a 1921 census talk, and then Jen finished up by doing some more Quarrybank stories. And honestly, I don't need to tell you, I love my job so much. I love that I get to do this. I mean, we don't work in a shop where you can just walk in and say hi to us and speak to us. So I really live for these sorts of events where we get to talk and meet you guys face to face. So I really, really do treasure events like this, and I really appreciate when people make the effort to come along. So thank you so much. Over on the next one, I say. I'm so excited. Just as an aside as well, so the guy in the, let's see if I can get my mouse over him. Yeah, there we go. So this is David Higginson here. So he is one of the Quarry Bank volunteers, and he was the star of the second episode of our Step Into the Cast podcast. I really, really recommend listening to his episode. It's so immersive, and it really goes to show how entrenched his family history is in style and also in the mill as well. He's wonderful. He's so knowledgeable and warm, and yeah, I like him a lot. Okay. Right. So the last thing I want to just briefly touch on today, before I go on, I'm just going to have a look at the comments. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jean. I'd love to have seen you. Yes, I'm afraid Liam was only there on the Sunday, Andrea. Sorry. The Findmypast bakery shop was unfortunately an April Fool. Liam, did nobody tell you? I also think it's a great idea. But yeah, it was an April Fool. So if anybody's got some money lying around that we can plough into a genealogy coffee shop, pastry shop thing, hit me up. I know, Daphne, I was gutted not to have seen you. Yeah, I was literally Niall was at the front in the room, sort of ticking everybody off as they arrived, and I'm looking at the listing. Has Daphne checked in yet? But yeah, I was even scanning the room looking for you. But hey ho, next time, we'll see you next time. Karen says she can just about see her. Didn't notice the hand waving at all. Was excellent, wasn't it? I felt like we could have done with just like another hour or two, because there's so much more to see at Quarry Bank. There's the apprentice house, there's the cottages, but hopefully you guys found some time to be able to explore those on your own. David, you're here. Hi, David. We have a real life celebrity in the house, everybody. So yeah, David is the star of the second episode of our podcast. So here's me bigging you up and saying how much I adore you, and you're here. Yay. It's a good thing I wasn't saying anything nasty. Why would I say anything nasty? Because you're lovely. Okay, right. The very last thing I want to do today is to briefly talk about The Great Escaper. Okay, so this is very, very exciting for us. We have teamed up with Pathé UK to help promote their latest film. It's called The Great Escaper, and it's starring Michael Caine and the late, great Glenda Jackson. And it tells the story of Bernie, who at age 90 escaped his care home in Brighton to attend the 70th anniversary D-Day landing commemoration events in France. Now, it's a really, really poignant film. It's funny and it's heartwarming and it's moving. And I've just got a couple of little things to show you. So I've got the trailer to show you first of all, and I must apologise for the quality of this trailer. I had to take the video file and make it much smaller in order to be able to upload it to this, to be able to play it for you. But if you go onto YouTube, you can probably just watch like a really good quality one. But so my apologies for that. Let me just find the video file. And oh, hi, William. Watch back later. Fair enough, no worries. Okay, right, let me just find the video file for you. And it's this one, I think.
Right. Soon as we've had some grub, I'll take you for a spin along the front. And when we get back, I think they've got a male stripper for you.
What?
I made that last bit up.
I want to go to France.
What are you on about?
The trip to the beaches. D-Day. Really sorry, Bernie. You left it too late.
I couldn't leave you all on your own.
Unless you have to. Where is he? He's disappeared off the face of the earth. He's in France.
Bonjour.
At 90. Well, he has done it before. Only then, of course, they were shooting at him.
So determined to honour his fallen comrade, the D-Day veteran made a break for the coast and mounted what has now been dubbed the Great Escape.
Who are these people?
They're Germans.
Oh, this was your beach.
Yeah.
Me too.
At your age, Adele, you cling to every second, and every second is worth clinging to.
I'm sorry, Reedy. I've been in the papers. I've been on TV. 90-year-old coffin dodger. Honours the glorious dead. What a waste. Hey? What a waste.
If you want to honour your friend, Bernie, you've spent 70 years loving me.
I'd go anywhere with you.
We have never wasted 1 second of our time together. Are you coming to bed?
Yours or mine?
Ooh.
How beautiful is that trailer? I'm so excited to see this film. I remember seeing sort of the long cut trailer about, can't be a year ago, when we first started working on this. So yeah, what we have done is, ahead of the release of the film on the 6th of October in cinemas, we have got the chance to get up close and personal with some of the stars. So John Standing, who plays Arthur, Will Fletcher, who plays the young Bernie, and Bernie is Michael Caine's character, and then Lauren Marcus, who plays young Weenie, Glenda Jackson's character. And Jen, our lovely, wonderful, amazing in-house researcher, explored the family trees and discovered some amazing stories. And then I got to meet some of them and deliver the family stories, the family history stories to them. So we are releasing a series of videos on our social media channels over the course of the next week with the reveals, the full reveals, so keep an eye out for those. There is also the blog post that Daisy has pulled together. If Liam could just pop that into the chat. But I also do have a little highlight reel to give you a little teaser. So I'm just going to play that as well. And again, I apologise for the terrible quality. Let me just see if I can find the video. This one.
He's in France.
Bonjour.
At 90.
My name is John Standing, and I'm playing Arthur in The Great Escaper.
Hello, my name's Will Fletcher, and I play young Bernie in The Great Escaper.
I play young Reenie in The Great Escaper.
No, I don't mind anything. The worse, the better.
So your great-grandparents, Herbert Standing and Emily Brown, they married in London in 1875. But Emily was previously married to a chap called William Charles Brown. So George Frederick Hamilton was born in 1897 and he served with the Rifle Brigade. All of these service records, they have physical descriptions of all the soldiers. It detailed the tattoos that he had. Do you have any tattoos at all?
I don't. I wish I did. I always wanted to get one, so maybe I'll get whatever he had.
So Derek, your grandpa's brother, he enlisted with the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve in the Second World War. And unfortunately, on the 5th of December 1941, he was killed in a collision between two aircraft on a training flight. What we've discovered is that William Brown accused Emily of multiple counts of adultery with your great-grandfather, Herbert Standing. Herbert, who also went by the name Herbert Crellin, he was accused by William Brown of stealing a quantity of jewellery.
The wilder it is, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So whatever, but I love it. I love it.
He added on his left forearm the words "true love" with joined hands. So that was his tattoo.
Wow, that's so. I love that. That's amazing.
His headstone, it's got a Jewish Star of David on it, but what it's also got is a little line that says, "With a full heart and eager spirit, he gave his all."
Oh man, now I'm gonna cry. Oh, bless.
I love it.
Yeah, I sort of can't help but thinking if that kind of behaviour links to any of the way that my family are, and especially that line you were talking about on the gravestone.
Fabulous. It would be really boring like the other side of my family if it was only about making money.
You feel like cogs start to mash together a little bit, which is nice. But yeah, what an amazing guy.
There we go. That's just a little something that our team's been working on for the past few months. So Jen doing the research, Daisy doing the blog, me doing the interviews and the video editing. Yeah, life at Findmypast is very, very varied. So that's it for today. Thank you everybody for joining me and listening to me waffle on about family history, but you guys all love it anyway. Who am I talking about? I'm talking, you all my people. Next week, Jen's going to be back for Friday's Live, but I think she's also doing a session on Thursday, so around 4 o'clock UK time. And I believe the plan is to do something to mark Home Child Day. So if you're around for that, come and join in. But you will also be able to watch back on Facebook or YouTube at a different time. And the other thing I just want to say as well is if anybody is up for a group cinema trip on the 6th of October to go and watch The Great Escaper, hopefully I have inspired you to go and watch the film. I'm very excited for it, and it was an absolute joy to meet some of the cast. And of course, it was an absolute joy to meet some of you guys at our Heritage Open Day event. Lovely. Okay. As a last reminder, go and listen to episode 2 of the podcast, Step into the Past, and listen to our lovely David. And yeah, I'm never going to stop talking about you, David. You're lovely. Okay, right. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Look after yourselves, and we will see